I was sent this subreddit called NEET, not in education, employment, or training. They're not working, they're not in school, they're just there. And I was reading through this subreddit and I was thinking about the possibility of how these people could become threatening or harm people because once a person gets tired of supporting them, what is the NEET going to do? Are they going to become violent? Who knows? And we have seen these stories of these males attacking their mothers when it's time to evict them. And that's what happened in this story right here. A mother served her 19-year-old son an eviction notice. Now he's accused of strangling her to death. Here is the picture of the mom, who was a working woman, Chanel Burns, and this is her son, Connor. A Loyola University Chicago employee living in Indiana served an eviction notice to her 19-year-old son. He's accused of strangling her to death in response. Chanel Burns, 43, filed the eviction notice against her son, Connor Cobald, now 20, on February 5th, according to online court records. That same day, police in Valparaiso, Indiana, said they responded to a report of an assault after Cobald called 911 multiple times. Upon arrival, police say they found an unconscious woman with serious injuries. The woman, identified as Burns in reports by WGN and the Post Tribune, died 2 days later. Authorities determined she was strangled, the outlets report. In order to avoid eviction, Cobald had 30 days to get a job, clean his room, and clean the common areas of the home, the Post Tribune reported, citing charging documents. Cobald is charged with the unaliving and aggravated battery in connection with the death of his mother, court records show. So this man was not working, and all he needed to do was look for a job within 30 days, clean his room, and clean the parts of the home that he frequents. And this is the response. According to the school's website, Burns was an assistant vice president in advancement at Loyola University Chicago. Chanel was very witty, kind, and poised, said colleague Karen Paricio in a statement. She had an exceptional ability to both strategically design and execute. She was a trusted advisor to many within advancement and so many across the university. We all miss her and profoundly mourn the loss to our division and the university. According to her online obituary, Burns was an Indiana native who enjoyed traveling and possessed several creative abilities. Chanel taught herself to play the piano, classical, of course, a hobby that carried on throughout adulthood. She would also journal voraciously, writing poetry and stories that showed her creative and organizational prowess. According to Cobald's LinkedIn page, he began studying at the United States Merchant Marine Academy in 2022. So that was 2 years ago when he was 18. Cobald's trial is scheduled to begin in August. He is currently being held in the Porter County Jail. Post Tribune reported that Cobald had filed a waiver to represent himself in February, but online court docket indicates that he was appointed a public defender. So I just want to bring it back. Like when I post about NEET, there are some people that jump in and want to defend some folks. It's not all the same. And I get it. There are not people that are all the same, but there are literally some of these people that literally just want to be parasites on their hosts. And sometimes these hosts are their mothers. And what is going to happen when that host extracts the parasite? What is going to happen? And it's not the same as living with somebody and being supportive, keeping things clean, making sure food is made, all of that. That doesn't necessarily make you a leech. A leech is somebody that he just wants to be in the house, playing video games, doing nothing except sucking the resources from somebody else. And this subreddit has over 41,000. And I know that I don't know if that's a big number, small number, or whatever, but there's articles going around that there are over 7 million working age men in the United States that aren't working. Over 7 million. So these people are really going to lash out when their host put them out, and they are going to be desperate on the streets somewhere. And people are like, you can't say that. Well, I'm just looking down further. When these people get desperate, it's going to be ugly. I want you guys to jump in the comments and let me know what you think about this one. I was born and raised in Oklahoma, and I would not go back to that place to live ever again. I left in 1999, soon as I graduated high school, and I have barely gone back to even visit. There's 0% chance I would go there. The way they are acting now is even worse. The crazy thing is, this man wants them to teach from the Bible. When I was in Oklahoma and I was in school, I think they have changed it now. They didn't even teach the Tulsa Race Massacre overall. I think it's in the curriculum now, and it was taught here and there. They taught about the Boomer Sooners and the land run, but they didn't talk about the race massacre that happened within their borders. They didn't talk about how they really did the indigenous tribes that were there. Just that, but we all know that the Indian casinos are there and the tribal lands are there. But they're going to teach the Bible, and this man is threatening these people. All right, let's get into the news article. Oklahoma schools head Ryan Walters. Teachers who won't teach the Bible could lose their license. This should definitely go to the Supreme Court. However, this is another reason why there's 0% chance that I would ever vote for Trump, because I I know people have things to say about Biden, and I agree. But like I said, I would vote for a half dead goat before I vote for Trump, because this is going to get sent to the Supreme Court. But the separation of church and state and all of that, the freedom from religion or the freedom of religion will be up for grabs because the conservative court votes so conservatively. They might even vote for this to be legal. Anyways, let's get into it. I know I've editorial. Oklahoma educators who refuse to teach students about the Bible could lose their teaching license, Superintendent of Public Instruction Ryan Walters said in an interview with NBC News on Friday. Walters issued a memo Thursday instructing all Oklahoma schools to teach students in grades 5 through 12 about the Bible's influence on the nation's founding and historical American figures. Schools will also be required to stock a Bible in every classroom. In an interview with NBC News, Walters said if a teacher refuses to follow the Bible instruction mandate, they'd face the same consequences as one who refuses to teach about the Civil War. The punishment could include revocation of their teaching license, he said, a process that requires a vote by Oklahoma State Board of Education, which Walter chairs. Any teacher that would knowingly, willfully disobey the law and disobey our standards, there are repercussions for that, Walters said. So we deal with that on a case by case basis. But yes, teachers have to teach Oklahoma academic standards, and this is absolutely going to be part of them. Walters' new rule on incorporating Bible instruction was immediately criticized by civil liberties and religious groups, the Jewish Federation of Tulsa, and the Oklahoma chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations. Both said in statements that Walters is inappropriately promoting Christianity in schools. Americans for Separation of Church and State also weighed in. Walters is abusing the power of his public office to impose his religious beliefs on everyone else's children, the group said in an email, adding that is carefully assessing options. The Education Department had been working on guidance on using the Bible in classrooms for 9 months, Walters said. The agency focused on the Bible because it is the book that is under assault. A spokesperson from the Oklahoma Attorney General's office said in an email that existing law already allowed teachers to use Bibles in the classroom during instruction, and that there is no legal authority for a memo from the superintendent to require content. Walter says he feels confident that his order will survive legal challenges because of the justice then President Donald Trump appointed to the Supreme Court. He's helped provide a path for us to be able to do this as states, Walter says of Trump. He added that if Trump wins a second term in November, it will help us move the ball forward even more so than this. Understand why I will vote for a half dead goat before I vote for Trump, because they are literally assaulting the reproductive rights of women, and they are literally trying to enforce their Christianity. People can learn about the Bible in church and in Bible study, but they're putting it in public schools and they are making teachers teach from it. What if the teacher isn't Christian? What if students are not Christian? Why are they doing this in public schools? I understand private schools or Christian schools, but public schools, this is out of line. This is, I just cannot understand living in these states. And I'm wondering what it is going to do for the teaching profession. And is it going to further push people out of the profession? You guys go ahead and weigh in. So the Supreme Court just gave a ruling about Trump and his immunity. And we already have talked about the fact that the Supreme Court is stacked with Trump friendly Supreme Court justices. So Trump is immune from prosecution for some acts in federal election case. The opinion leaves much unresolved, sending the case back to trial court for further proceedings. Donald Trump has immunity from criminal prosecution for some actions he took as president while fighting to subvert the 2020 election. The Supreme Court ruled Monday, further complicating efforts to put Trump on trial in Washington on criminal charges that he engaged in fraud to try to cling to power. The 6-3 decision, which divided the court along ideological lines, immediately knocked out some of the central allegations that special counsel Jack Smith leveled against Trump, including the claims that he attempted to weaponize his Justice Department to concoct or amplify false claims of voter fraud. However, the opinion also leaves much unresolved, sending the case back to trial court for further proceedings. There, U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan must now sift through the allegations to separate Trump's official acts, those he took in his capacity as president, from private ones when he was acting as a presidential candidate. That process could further stall the case by months and is likely to push any trial past Election Day. The opinion from Chief Justice John Roberts declared that former presidents have absolute immunity from criminal prosecution over actions that fall within their core constitutional powers. There is no immunity, Roberts wrote, for unofficial acts. So they can officially act as criminals, according to Chief Justice John Roberts. Trump immediately rejoiced at the decision. Big win for our Constitution and democracy. Proud to be an American, he wrote on his social media platform, Truth Social. Here is the Truth Social post in all caps. Big win for our Constitution and democracy. Proud to be an American, where at least he knows he's free to act as a criminal as long as he has that president as a title. One particular challenge for Chutkan, the Supreme Court's opinion leaves significant ambiguity about the scope of Trump's immunity for acts related to his office, but outside the powers specifically accorded to the president under the Constitution. The High Court's majority said those sorts of acts may be immune, but didn't definitively resolve that question. It's like they know that they can't just absolve presidents of criminal acts because they know that sometimes presidents will be Democrat. So they're trying to toe the line between trying to help Trump and maybe make it so ambiguous that it takes time to figure it out. That's what they're trying to do. That nuance leaves the question of whether Trump's interactions with then Vice President Mike Pence in the lead up to January 6, 2021 count as official and therefore immune actions or whether they can remain part of the criminal case against Trump. Trump pressured Pence to refuse to certify the election results on January 6th, an effort that Pence rejected as illegal. The special counsel has alleged that Trump's pressure campaign was one aspect of a broad and illegal abuse of power. The High Court also left it to Chutkan to render similar judgment on Trump's efforts to pressure state officials to reverse certified results of their elections. The opinion was the latest evidence of a bitterly divided court, with the 3 liberal justices blasting the result as utterly indefensible in a blistering dissent. The majority's project will have disastrous consequences for the president and for our democracy. That's Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote, joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. The presidency enjoys no immunity for his unofficial acts and not everything the president does is official, Roberts wrote. The president is not above the law, but Congress may not criminalize the president's conduct in carrying out responsibilities of the executive branch under the Constitution. What part of the Constitution says that he can call to Georgia officials and says, I need to find over 100,000 votes to be in my favor? What part of the Constitution is that? Roberts emphasized that the decision was not specific to Trump, and he said the court's ruling should not be viewed as partisan. It is partisan, that immunity applies equally to all occupants of the Oval Office, regardless of politics, policy, or party. Reading her dissent aloud from the bench for about 25 minutes, Sotomayor insisted that the majority was not executing the founder's vision, but straying from it. The damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably. In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law, she wrote. The majority's single minded fixation on the president's need for boldness and dispatch ignores the countervailing need for accountability and restraint. The framers were not so single minded. The ruling explicitly punts the decision about how to triage the case, at least for now, to Chuck, an Obama appointee on the federal trial bench in Washington. She signaled in January that if higher courts returned the case to her and allowed it to proceed toward trial, she planned to give Trump's defense a minimum of about 3 months to prepare for trial. She has wide discretion about whether and when to reschedule the trial, but will now have to determine how to handle the Supreme Court's demand for her to conduct a careful sifting of the charges and perhaps the evidence. If she moves very quickly to implement the Supreme Court's ruling and sticks with the 3-month preparation timeline, a trial could theoretically begin in October in the waning weeks of the presidential campaign. The trial, though, is expected to last more than a month, so it's unlikely it will reach a verdict before Election Day on November 5th. So we shall see what will happen with this. And like I said, this is the reason why voting is important. The way Trump was able to stack the courts with these conservative judges, it is creating a monarchy of sorts. And the way the GOP is pushing for a theocracy, this is getting bad. It was already pretty bad, but this is getting pretty bad with the fact that there is no oversight. They're going to allow this man to operate with immunity. And this is not good for a democracy. It's good for a theocracy or a dictatorship. And that is what he wants. Y'all jump in the comments. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, share.